Hello everyone, I'm going to teach you this little
today.
fish we use to sew on clothes, or your cardigan. You can also sew it on our clothes. Either way. And then we, the little fish, do 4 stitches. Long tail acupuncture method? Put the knitting needle under the line and start 4 stitches like this. And here are 2 stitches. There is a stitch of thread on the knitting needle. 3 stitches. 4 stitches are good, 4 stitches are cut. Knit the needles. Let's knit 2 stitches first. Okay, after knitting, add 2 needles to the knitting needle. Then take these 2 stitches again. Here are 2 side needles. The 2 stitches on our left are the side stitches. The 2 needles on the right are also side needles. And now reverse. When we started, we just knitted the first 2 stitches on the first line. Then start now. Can't you knit the first 2 stitches? Now here's the upper needle. We put the knitting needles under the line like this. Adjusted weaving. Okay, the 3rd stitch, let's wrap the thread and knit the needle. Osmanthus needle, 4th knitting. These 2 needles are woven into osmanthus needles. Then these 2 stitches are knitted on the reverse side. Is it tails now? Okay, finally number 1 turns around. This is the front. We can't knit the first 2 stitches either. It's all adjusted and not woven. We have braids here. Put the knitting needle on the line to pick. Then the first we now pick out the 2 side needles. I will add needles in the future. You have to add needles every time you line the front. Is this the needle under the needle? This braid we're going to wrap the thread around. The one knitted now is an osmanthus needle. Every time you go straight, you have to give him the wrong position. Up and down. Okay, here are 2 more needles. We're going to put an extra needle in front of him. And then here we knit on both sides. Do you have to knit at the end? Okay, turn around again. The first 2 needles cannot be straightened. Needle under the 3rd needle. Because our 4th stitch is a small horizontal line. The 4th stitch under the 3rd stitch. Here we are, just above the small horizontal line. Braids are down. What knitting and what needle do you see on the reverse side? Okay, knit on both sides. Okay, turn around. On this side. The first 2 stitches. Adjustment is not good. After we knit the needle and pick it out, do you still need to add a needle? Every time you go to the front, you have to add a needle. Here's the lower needle. We're going to thread this up and weave it. Knit on the needle. On the lower needle. Under the needle. Okay, I'm going to add a needle here. Sleeve plus a needle. The front of the edge needle. Under 2 needles. Turn around. The first 2 stitches will not be knitted. The 3rd stitch wraps the thread down. Because our 4th needle is an upper needle, it's a little horizontal line. We weave. Under the braids. Above the small horizontal line. Under the braids. What knitting and what needle do you see on the reverse side? Knit on both sides. The first 2 needles can't be straightened. Front edge needle every time. You have to add a needle to the back of the edge needle. Lower the needle and wrap the thread around it. Under the needle. On the lower needle. Every time the front is in the wrong position, sisters. Okay, I need to add a needle to the front of the knitting needle. Now tails. The reverse side is the upper knitting needle placed this under the thread. You can't pick and knit. 3rd stitch, wind the thread down and knit the needle. 4th knitting. Under the pigtails above the small horizontal line. Knit on both sides. On the reverse side. Okay, now use the front. The first 2 needles can't be straightened. Then I have to add a needle to the sleeve. When you place the needle, wrap the thread up and place the needle on. Under the needle. On the lower needle. Upper needle, lower needle. Sleeve needle. Two-sided knitting lower needle. Turn around. The first 2 needles cannot be adjusted up. Under the 3rd stitch. On the 4th needle. What needle do you see on the reverse side? Knitting on both sides. The first 2 stitches will not be knitted, then I'm going to add another needle here. The 3rd stitch is a braid, so here are the braids, and we're going to knit them. The small horizontal thread every is woven. Time the front osmanthus needle goes to the wrong position. A needle. Two-sided knitting lower needle. The first 2 needles can't be straightened. Under the 3rd stitch. 4th stitch up and 5th stitch down. What knitting and what needle do you see on the reverse side? Under the braids. Okay, knit on both sides. The first 2 stitches can't be straightened, then you have to add another needle. Every time you hit this edge needle. Well, inside the edge needle, you have to add a needle to the sleeve. Here are the braids and then we have to do one. Under the small horizontal line. Okay, we're going to the Taojia family again. Every time I go to the front, I have to set up a family. The first 2 stitches are not woven. The 3rd stitch wraps the thread down. Okay, here, on the reverse side, knit on both sides. The first 2 stitches will not be knitted, then I have to add a needle to the sleeve. So here's the needle, and we're just wrapping the thread around it. We need to add 8 times to add 2 lines once. Okay, here's another nosebleed. It's on our side needle, the front of the edge needle. Two-sided knitting lower needle. Add on the left in front of the edge needle. Add it on the right behind the edge needle. The first 2 stitches will not be knitted. 3rd stitch, wind the thread down and knit the needle. Above the small horizontal line. Under the braids. Above the small horizontal line. Knit whatever needle you see on the reverse side. Knitting on both sides. Can you count? We need to add 8 times to add 1 to 2 lines. Then 8 stitches are added to each side, which is 16 started with 4 stitches. Let's count to see if there are 20 stitches. 2 4 6 8 1 4 2 4 1 6 1 8 2 0. Good. We add 2 lines once. It's already added after adding 8 times. And now you need to add 4 lines once. Then I don't need to add it this time. The first 2 stitches will not be folded. Here is the upper needle. Place the needle and we'll go here, our line. I don't add it. You need to know the 4 elements before adding it. You need to add 4 lines twice to add them once. Is this line not added? We have 20 needles, so there is no need to add them. You need to knit 4 more lines before adding needles. Each time the osmanthus needle on the front is wrong. 2 side needles to lower needle. The first 2 needles cannot be straightened. The third stitch is on and we knit it. Is a needle. The bottom is the bottom and back. What knitting and what needle do you see? On 2 side needles. Okay, now it's front. We didn't add the front last time. Now this time, the front is going to be added. There is number 4, and there are 2 back and forth. The first 2 stitches can't be straightened, and then side needle. I need to add a needle cover and a needle in the back. Here's the upper needle and we'll knit it. On the lower needle. Under the needle. Sleeve plus a needle. Under 2 edge needles. The first 2 needles cannot be straightened. Third stitch. Our 4th needle here is the lower needle. We're on the 3rd stitch. Okay, here are the braids, so knit them. Knitting on both sides. At first, the 2 sides can't be straightened. The previous line has been added. Don't add this line. Plus 1. Planning for right and wrong location. Under 2 edge needles. Do not knit on the first 2 stitches, and on the 3rd stitch we knit. If you put on the needle, you will knit on the reverse side. What knitting and what needle do you see on the reverse side? Knitting on both sides. Okay, we didn't add needles last time. This time I'm going to add needles again. The first 2 needles, the upper pick needle. Then I'm going to add a needle to the sleeve. So here we are, and we're going to put this thread on. Under the needle. On the lower needle. The front is in the wrong place. Okay, here, add a needle to the front sleeve of the side needle, two-sided knitting lower needle. We are here, add once for 2 lines, and after adding it here, let's knit 2 more back and lines here. The first 2 stitches will be adjusted, and the third stitch will not be knitted because the 4th needle is an upper needle. We knit the 3rd stitch on the 4th needle. Knitting on both sides. Let's knit another round trip here. Knit another one back and forth. The first 2 needles are not woven, so there is no need to add needles. Knit on the needle. Pin the 2 sides down. The first 2 needles cannot be straightened. On the 3rd stitch we knit. What knitting and what needle do you see on the reverse side? Knitting on both sides. Okay, now the front is about to close the needle. Closing our hand. Knit 2 stitches first. Pick up the back needle and thin it out. Knit again. Next, pick up the needle at the back and slim it down. 2 stitches. 3 stitches. 4 stitches. 5 sheets. 6 sheets. 7 sheets. 8 needles. 9 needles. 10 stitches are good, 10 stitches are put away, and I will knit it here. Osmanthus needles are knitted normally. Let's go left to the back. Go to the reverse side to collect. Okay, now to tails. Knitting needles 10 needles flat and vertical. 1. Second, pick up the needle at the back and accept it. Knit again, pick up the needle at the back and dial it down. Put away 2 stitches. 3 stitches. 4 stitches. For stitches left, we receive 10 stitches on each side. Then there are 4 stitches left. Okay, now it's the front tail again. The first 2 stitches will not be knitted. And then in the middle, knitting like our fish mouths again. 2 pin sleeve. Then the last 2 stitches are like this. Okay, tails again. The first 2 stitches will not be knitted. 3rd stitch, wrap the thread down to the lower needle. On the 4th needle. On 2 side needles. Turn around and face. The first 2 needles cannot be straightened. Then add needles. Sleeve plus a needle, here it is, and we knit it. Here's the upper needle and we'll knit it. Okay, I need another injection. 2 side needles to lower needle. The first 2 needles cannot be straightened. Needle under the 3rd needle. On the 4th needle. The 4th stitch is a small horizontal
under our 3rd
line.
stitch.
Knitting on both sides. First 2 stitches. Adjust or not weave. Sleeve plus a needle. The 3rd stitch here is the pigtail above us. Under the small horizontal line, on the braids. Under the small horizontal line. Sleeve plus a needle. Under 2 edge needles. First 2 stitches. Adjust or not weave. 3rd knitting lower needle. On the 4th needle. What knitting and what needle do we see on the reverse side? Two side stitches to the top stitch. Turn around. First 2 stitches. Adjust or not weave. Sleeve needle. Wrap the thread around and knit the needle. Small horizontal thread knitting needle. Braids knit on needles. Small horizontal thread knitting needle. 2 lines plus 1 plus 5 times our fish tail. Add a needle here. 2-sided knitting lower needle. We have 4 stitches left. Then add 2 lines plus 1 plus 5 times. That's 14 stitches in total. There are 14 stitches, we make a fish tail and we knit it. The first 2 stitches are not woven. Sleeve needle. Wrap the thread around. Good set plus a needle. Under 2 edge needles. If the reverse side is woven back, it will be collected equally. The first 2 stitches are hung without knitting. We have already added the needle here. 14 stitches have 2 lines plus 1 plus 5 times. A total of 10 stitches were added. Plus the 4 stitches left before our last 14 stitches. Okay, now you have 14 stitches. Take these 2 stitches first. Pick up the back needle and dial it down. Okay, put it away. Cut off the thread after putting it away. Use a pin to hide the thread to the reverse side. Knock a little bit of string. Tie a knot. Just try it and cut the thread. Hide this thread for him too. Because our tails wait a minute. Will it be sewn on the clothes then? So just have a taste. Now close your eyes. Let's all look up a little bit. Don't put it down. Put it on top. Put the coil on. Tie a knot. Cut the thread. Then the little fish is ready.